Three, two, one. Hey everyone, welcome back to Ash on Comics. I'm Ash, and when last we saw Thor, he was getting smashed in the face with his own hammer by Iron Man. Okay, it wasn't last we saw Thor. There's been several issues since then, but since I last saw Thor, this is what was going on. I believe this was issue 8. Yes, issue 8 of Thor by Donny Cates. Now, the first 6 issues of Thor that Donny Cates did, I really liked. I feel it ended kind of abruptly for such a major, powerful villain that got introduced. I'm hoping we go back to that. I'm not sure. It just feels like, oh, that's all done, tied up in a bow, but not really tied up. Anyways, we're not here to talk about that. The point is, I love Thor. Thor is one of my favorite Marvel Comics characters. I want to say comics, because he's not often done well. Simonson's Thor, Walt Simonson, back in the day, I believe it was 337. I'm trying to remember the number where he started his run, is what really got me into Thor. And what I love about Simonson's run of Thor is that he solidified that Thor wasn't some mild-mannered doctor guy with a cane by day, and he smashes the cane down and, oh, I'm now Thor. I always thought that was cornball. Make him it's like a Clark Kent type of thing. It was too derivative. Not every superhero needs to have that sort of secret identity like Clark Kent. Walt Simonson took Thor, and I'm not sure if he's the one that fully did it himself, but he's, like I said, he's the one that solidified it and made Thor just Thor. He's Thor Odinson. He's a god in Asgard, son of Odin, the Allfather, and took the Norse mythos that I'm somewhat of a fan of and brought it to life in the Marvel universe. And I was like, that is so cool. What if the Norse mythos was real in a fictional sense, right? And it interacted with the Marvel universe. Thor was a real god. I was like, this is so fucking cool. And Walt Simonson wrote fantastic stories. Perfect recipe, his writing, his art. Anyways, years and years go on afterwards, and Thor was never the same to me. I've heard Michael J. Straczynski, who's a writer I like, did a good Thor run that I should check out sometime. And I know if Comics Quirks, our boy Jimmy, is watching this video, he's going to be like, I told you to read Jason Aaron's Thor the God Butcher story. Like, I'm going to get to that someday. I like Thor. Anyways, this is where we're at. Now, there was a 2-issue series after that 6-issue arc where Thor's running around, and anyone can wield his hammer now. His power's kind of waning, the hammer's drawing heavy. And this continues from the previous 6-issue arc, but now everyone can wield the hammer, and he's called in Tony Stark to help him. And Tony Stark, well, since the MCU, is it since the MCU or even before? Modern Marvel has turned Tony Stark into a regular asshole. I don't really like it. I'm just not a fan of Tony, but that's the way he is. He's holding Thor's hammer. He's telling Thor he can't have it back. He's going to study it and all this stuff. And he's giving him a big old lecture to the point where he even smashes Thor in the face. I'm just like, dude, what is wrong with you? Thor, to his credit, man, he's got super patience, and he puts Tony in his place. And I love he just kind of looks at him, summons his power. Tony, listen to me very carefully. Do not mistake wielding my hammer for wielding my power. Mjolnir or not, I am still a god. And you are a tin man in a lightning storm. Well, as far as arguments go, that's compelling. That was a cool line. And Donny Cates does some really cool banter here. I did enjoy this. This was what a fill-in story is supposed to do. It's not supposed to be earth-shattering, into the world, into the universe, whatever. Just a story about the character. And, you know, this 2-issue art got a lot of grief for its art. I think the art was fine. It's not something I'd want every issue. But sometimes the main artist needs a break. You get a fun little moment here of this guy, Adam, who can, you know, is wielding the hammer, so he gets the powers of Thor. And Thor lets him wield it one last time so he can fly around. And it's a cool, fun moment. And I'm not here to review those books. They're fine. It's when I got to the end here that I was like, oh, God, no. They're bringing back Donald Blake. Right? I just told you why I like Thor. I don't want Thor Donald Blake. I was like, no. What are you doing? I was wrong. In Donny Cates we trust, right? That's what should happen. So the reason this video is late in the coming is because I just stopped reading. I didn't stop buying. I wasn't boycotting. I wasn't like, I'm done with the book. I just was buying them and just putting them aside because I didn't have the enthusiasm to read the story. And then I just did. Well, over the past week, I've read these stories, and they're really good. I'm liking it. This is the best Thor of Donny Cates' small run so far, in my opinion. But before we go any further, I was rereading for this view, kind of coming back to here, and I noticed that there was some foreshadowing that I didn't recall. And we see here, this is all flashback. The last page where Thor's remembering Tony saying, try to take it easy, or a vacation, or consider a vacation or rest or something. Try to get away, even for a weekend. And then Adam, talking to Thor and giving him some advice, he says, you know, most times you'll find that turning something off and turning it back on again will fix most things. Best of luck. Don't be a stranger. And so it reminds Thor about Donald Blake, So that's where you get this story. Now, I didn't put 2 and 2 together initially. You know, now I go back and I see where it makes sense. Donnie was doing some serious foreshadowing here. And so the story goes that Donald Blake is literally a magical creation that Odin made for his son so that Thor could learn to become not just a powerful warrior, an Asgardian god, heir to the throne, all that, but to be just a good man, a humble man, and could live part of his time on Earth as a man. And that was the whole Donald Blake thing. And I think that's really freaking cool. I like when a good writer can take a concept that maybe doesn't work anymore, if it once did, but not ignoring that it had previously existed, and said, you know, how can we take something old and make it new again? How can we build upon this? And that's some of the greatest things in comics have come from, right? Like, and speaking of Donny Cates, we'll think about Venom. Now, Donny Cates didn't create Venom, but the creation of Venom goes back to that. What once was just some random blob of black goo so that Marvel could sell a toy, David Michelini and Todd McFarlane created this whole Venom mythos and the symbiote and everything, and made some really compelling stories of how it was corrupting Spider-Man, all this stuff, because they took something that was like, that's kind of dumb, but what if we made it more? Well, here Donny Cates does a similar thing with Donald Blake and says, I don't know if he says it's dumb. I say Donald Blake's dumb. That's my words, not his. He says, what if he could make it more or different? What if we could make him relevant in a new way? Because I don't think Donald Blake is ever really coming back. I hope not, as the way he was. I don't think anyone's clamoring for it. I don't think anyone's like, Thor Odin's son's stupid. Let's have... No. So anyways, in this world, what happens is when Thor reverts back to Donald Blake, Thor goes into this dream world sleep thing. and Donald Blake runs around with his persona. And then when Thor is summoned, Donald Blake hits the hammer. He swaps out with Thor, and Donald Blake goes into this dream world. And this dream world is this blissful, idyllic, Pleasantville world. Everything's just all perfect and happy. And we find, through this great art, that this magical place seems to exist in the Tree of Life, Yggdrasil. And, you can see it as the camera zooms out. So we get some interactions with Loki and Thor, and some readers have been reading going, this is stupid that anyone could pick up the hammer. Why is that? And again, I say, in Donnie we trust. When you have a good writer, give him the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes things look stupid on the surface, but when you learn the reasoning and what's going on and where the story's going, you go, oh, okay. So here we get this confrontation with Loki and Thor. Thor's feeling down on himself. The weight of the throne is upon him. All these big events Marvel's been having, his death of his father. It's too much for him. And Loki says to him, I know where Donald Blake goes when you swap, Thor. But I also know where you go when he is here. You go to the Elder Sleep, where you can commune with the spirits and the old dead kings. Anyone can pick up Mjolnir. The ancient Asgardian magics are coming apart at the seams. Someone or something is destroying destiny. And you want answers. Yes. And in the meantime, you want me to babysit your dreadfully dull doctor friend. Yes. Fine. Truly? You mean that? You would do this for me? Yes, Thor. I want these answers as well. And besides, you will owe me one rather absurdly large favor that I look forward to you regretting in the future. Thank you, brother. This is the kind of interactions between Thor and Loki that I really like. And so Thor picks up his hammer, slams it down, reverts to Donald Blake, something that hasn't been done in ages, and Thor goes to Pleasantville. But all's not right, as you can immediately see, and this is how Donnie keeps a story compelling. You're like, what the hell is going on? There's just, Pleasantville has become Murderville, and you can see it's like, oh god, this is not good. And then you get to this page, and the Midgard Serpent is like, what the holy shit. And then we see Donald Blake has been freed, and he is pissed. Loki's confronts him. Blake, is that? No, not really. And then immediately Loki's smart guy. I like that he's not writing Loki as an idiot. Loki knows, oh shit, this is on. This dude's here to kill shit. Loki's like, well then. Oh, Loki, allow me to reintroduce myself. I am... Enough! I don't know what this is or how you gain power, but I am Loki Odinson, king of the Jotunheim and god of stories and myth, and I will not be bested by a pretend Thor named Donald Blake. Doom. And of course he gets bested. Easily. No, I am no Thor. And I never will be again. Krakoom, and he breaks the stick, which immediately we as a reader know, oh god, he won't switch back. Thor is trapped in that world. So how's Thor coming back? And it's a compelling first issue. Then we get to the next, and immediately, I was like, oh, why did I wait to read this? It's so good. Now, I can imagine there's probably a few people out there that are like, oh, no, I love Donnie Blake. What do they do to my favorite boy? Like, maybe. If you're one of those people, I'm sorry. He's not that big of a character. He's not that well cared for. And to me, that makes him up for grabs. That makes him up to be utilized and changed this way. Iconic characters, you don't mess with. You don't mess with Spider-Man or Captain America. Like, you don't even mess with iconic situations like breaking up the Spider-Man marriage. You don't do that. But someone like Donald Blake has been lost down the memory hole. he's free reign. Do what you want. And in this case, I love this. He makes a better villain than an alternate identity for a hero. So we see Donald raiding the weapons, going through the lore, faces the Warriors 3, and we get a nice big battle. He bests them all. And this is what is kind of formulaic in a sense. Donnie Blake does. A lot of good writers that write these type of stories do. You have to set the heroes up for failure. You have to show how dangerous the villain is by tearing everyone down. And he does. You're reading this story and he's whooping everyone's ass, and gets to the point at the end where he takes a Heimdall sword that controls the Bifrost, and he says, "Please, my lady, don't blame yourself. I assure you, no one could have seen this coming." Clink. It's just like, no! No! And he moves all of Asgard into this hell world. Dimension blood. Ancestral hunting grounds of the Vampacabra. The farthest place from the fields we know. And you're just like, oh shit. Dude is not playing around. And then meanwhile, Asgard later. I get it, Thor. I do. All those years I spent in that prison, and you, with all this around you, soft, luxurious even. No wonder you forgot about me. I get it. I do. It's good to be king. Now, let's catch up with some more old friends. Poof. Yeah, remember he's got the Bifrost sword, so he can go where he wants. Meanwhile, Thor sees Jormungand, and he confronts him, or he comes up and confronts him. He's still alive. He's like his dying breaths. Thor's like, by the gods, what has happened to your dragon? What have you done? What has bested the great Midgard Serpent so? I was barred from this place once by your father, but I was always curious, a snake swirling around the nest of eggs. But never could I break the walls until the Odin force passed to me. I, little bird, and your magics are broken. I came to Blake to free him of his cage, to show him what he truly was. Another pawn in Odin's game. I offered him power to share in mine, to be at my side. Two shadows to fight the gold and the thunder together. And he took it, my power. But with it he discovered the Odin force within himself as well. And with the roaring fire of both god and dragon inside him, the power, the madness, it awoke in him a fury unlike anything I have ever seen. The rage of a man waking up to find his entire life a lie. He will bend to no one. He cannot be stopped. He slit my throat and tore my hide for his armor. You have never faced anything like him, Thor. He is the dragon now, and yet he is so much more. He will take everything. Excuse me? Everything you have ever loved will burn. Dr. Foster, I presume? Donald! Jane! And they get this, pleasant hug, and you're just like, it's so creepy, because he's got that, that serial killer, he's like, oh, look, he's like a friendly guy, so lovable, likable guy, clean cut, and he's fucking pure evil. I like this. I love this character. I love new villains. Some people, they want to see the same old again. I hear a lot of people bitching about Batman right now. It's like, oh, James Tynion he's making all these new characters. I just want to see the old villains. I don't want these new characters. And I'm like, really? I'm tired of just rinse and repeat these guys over and over for 80 friggin' years. I want to see new stuff. I'm not saying abandon the old. Just put them on the shelf for a little bit. Let's get some new ones. A lot of the new ones won't stick. That's historically true. But maybe if 1 out of 10 does, then that becomes the next big thing. You know, once upon a time there was no Venom, right? And then they created a new villain. Maybe they went too far, but you know what I'm saying? Anyways, next issue. This is the key. Well, not the key, but this is the one that I was like, I saw this cover and I was like, I need to read this because it made me forget all about the Donald Blake and why I was not enthused anymore. I saw this. Look at how great this cover is. It's fantastic. And so I went back and read the issues that I just covered up to this and through here. And so we get an eating scene. Donald Blake catching up with Jane Foster. Now, full disclosure, I hate Jane Foster. I especially hate modern Jane Foster, where she's turned into Thor / Valkyrie / badass woman. Right? Jane Foster as pacifist doctor who contrasts with boastful, egotistical warrior Thor. Great. I like that dichotomy. Turning Jane Foster into Thor is stupid. Just absolutely retarded in so many different ways. But we're not here to go into that. Unfortunately, this is where we are today, and Jane Foster isn't the pacifist. She is a big warrior, ass kicker. And I'm reading this book, disclosure, I'm like, oh man, I hope Donald Blake kills her. Please, Donald. But I know she's not because they're rebooting Valkyries. Anyways, but we get some really cool scenes. Look at this. Evil as he's sipping this coffee through the steam. And meanwhile, Thor's trapped in this world. We've got Asgardian. Our Asgard moved to the dimension Blood. And Donald Blake finally lashes out, stabs Jane. And what we learn is Donald Blake wants to get all the previous Thors. Anyone who's ever been a Thor, he has some vendetta against. And he's like, no more. I love this. Too bad it's not real. It's all in his imagination of what he wants to do, but he's keeping himself in check. James catches it. Are you okay? What's wrong? I'm fine. I have to go. And you can see he's stewing. He's like, you were always good to me, Jane. You loved me once. Not him. Me. You don't belong in the morgue. Right? So he's going off to do some murdering. But Jane is smart, and she puts things together. They go to the morgue, finds this guy Roger Red Norvell, who apparently was once a Thor. This is some deep dive in lore that I don't know. Eric Breen, you can educate me in the comments, or anyone else can if you know. And Jane loses her lunch. Apparently, this guy was messed up so bad that even she couldn't stomach it. And she's talking to herself saying, you know, come on, that wouldn't be him. Come on, get it together. Donald is fine. Now, I don't understand what she's seeing in the mirror here. What is that something real? This kind of confused me. I don't know if I'm supposed to be confused. If you understand what I'm supposed to be seeing there, what that ball is, let me know. Then we cut over and we see Donald going out in the jungle with a big axe. He's like, you know, I'm not scared of you. Come out. And gets zotted by lightning. I was not hiding. I was hunting. Now get up and run. And we get Frog Thor and oh god, what's his name? Is it Locke? I'm drawing a blank. I think it's Locke. The Lockjaw. My brain was locked. That was the problem here. Lockjaw's cool. Remember when I said how everything ties into Donny Cates' Donny Cates did an Inhumans run, Death and Inhumans. Now, I don't like Frog Thor. I get why he exists. He's a cute thing. He's always going to be around, kind of like, wolf, that little wolvy creature thing. Whatever. But for some reason, this made me kind of go fucking cool. Like, Frog Thor is going to fight. So the only Frog Thor that I really know is the one that Simonson did, where Thor got turned into a frog by some enchantment that Loki did to trick him, and Thor had to like live as a frog for a while Loki sat on the throne. I don't remember a separate character Thor frog, which, by the way, comments below. Where is that from? How are those two different? What am I missing? There's many decades of Thor stuff that I missed, so I'm not the end-all be-all knowledge of Thor. I'm just a schmo who likes Thor and likes good comics, and these are good comics. So this is where we end. We get this conflict. We've seen Donald Blake just whooping ass on everyone. I don't see how Frog Thor and Lockjaw are going to stand up to him, but it's a great cliffhanger moment. You're like, oh, it's going to be on. I want to know where this goes. This is a fun story with a fun new villain. The writing is solid. When I mean the writing, I mean actually like the actual dialogue. The script is solid. The writing is too. It's very creative. This world, this shadow world and everything like that. Donnie is a imaginative guy. I think he's the most important writer at Marvel, because he's able to imagine these worlds and these scenarios and these new characters and put them in situations that we haven't necessarily seen before, and he thinks big, and he ties it all together. If you are a Marvel fan, Donny Cates is a guy that should at least be in part of your subscriptions. To me, he's one of the only few books worth getting. I collect 3 Marvel books: Daredevil, Thor, and Venom. Thor was at the bottom of my list for a while, but it's rivaling Venom. Not the bottom of my list, the bottom of those 3. This is great stuff. It's worth getting. I support good comics. I encourage other people to support good comics. There's so much trash out there in the mainstream. So many reasons Marvel and DC give you for you to not give them your money. And I completely understand if you're one of those people. But when they do things right, you should reward that so that they understand. They only understand money. If a comic book succeeds, if Donny Cates was selling like gangbusters, if Daredevil, another great comic over Marvel, was selling like gangbusters, and all their other shit was failing, that would send a clear message to them of like, oh, this is what we should be doing. Unfortunately, that's not what's happening. Daredevil, which is my opinion their best comic over there, is barely selling anything because people just don't know. Most people that buy mainstream comics, they just have the characters they like. You know, maybe they're a Captain Marvel fan. And it doesn't matter how bad Captain Marvel sucks as a comic book. They like that character and they want it to be successful, and so they just keep buying every issue. Maybe they hate Daredevil, and it doesn't matter how good Daredevil is. They're never going to know because they're not going to try it out. So spread word of mouth. That's what I do. That's why the point of these videos. I want to steer you clear of the crap, and I want to steer you towards things that are worthy of your attention. And Thor by Donny Cates is worth your attention. Thanks for watching.